All right. If you are just hopping in, welcome to DPS Bullying Prevention. We're going to get started in just a minute now. So you're on time, and let us know what school you're from in the chat while we wait. Super. We are live on YouTube. I'm going to share my screen. One sec. And my presentation, not my messy desktop. That's not what we want. All right. So, welcome to Face University. Tonight we have our DPS Bullying Prevention and School Culture presentation with Wes Ogburn. The department that you're coming from, Wes, can you remind me the name?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's a Department of Climate and Safety.
Climate safety. Yeah, amazing. But before we get started, I just want to let you know we do have a Spanish interpretation. We will have Vietnamese shortly. He's just running a little behind. And when that Vietnamese channel is up, I will let you guys know. But to enter into an interpretation channel, we have Spanish currently. You are going to click, if you're on your computer, you will click on the translate globe and pick your language. If you are on your phone, you're going to click on the three ellipses, that's the three dots, and navigate to interpretation. Spanish interpretation, can you introduce that in Spanish for any of our Spanish speakers? Spanish interpretation, are you able to interpret that in Spanish so they know how to get to the channel? Okay, she might be in the channel already. Let me pause and check. All right. No, it looks like she might have accidentally popped out. So let's pause for a minute. Oh, Spanish interpretation is here. So I'm going to open the Spanish channel. I'm going to let her in. I'll let you know when it's started. Please. You know what? Mark, my interpretation globe. Oh, I have it. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can hear
okay.
you.
Just checking.
But apparently the interpreter is in the Spanish channel right now.
Okay, cool. As long as it's working, that's fine. It's getting a little glitchy on my end. So I'll just keep moving forward. We do have Spanish. We will have Vietnamese coming shortly. So DPS land acknowledgement is where we'll start off. The DPS community acknowledges our indigenous relatives who have lived in and cared for this ancient land from time immemorial. We acknowledge the close relationship that Arapaho, Cheyenne, Southern Ute, and Ute Mountain Ute and natives of other tribal nations continue to have with the waters, plants, and all moving things that call this land home. We pledge our respect for those enduring indigenous connections to the place that we now call Colorado. To our students and employees who are part of tribal nations, thank you for being an important part of the DPS community by choosing to learn and work at DPS each day. We also have an equity statement. Racial and educational equity is our collective responsibility. We will achieve equity when we dismantle deeply rooted systems of oppression that have historically resulted in inequitable access and distribution of opportunities and resources for those who represent marginalized identities, including race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, language, and ability. We will create conditions where we all belong, are included, have clear purpose, why, and have the autonomy to lead in our respective areas. By creating these conditions, we eliminate the predictability of success or failure for our students and team members. Because when families and communities thrive, every learner thrives. And remember, on Face University, we do record these sessions and post them on our YouTube channel. So we have some norms leaning into discomfort. Some of these conversations can get a little bit uncomfortable. So have compassion for yourself and other people here in this space with us. Respect the lived experiences and cultures of all people in this space with us. And withhold any personally identifiable information like birthdays, addresses, and that kind of stuff. So that leads us into a presentation. Oh my goodness, presentation with Wes Ogburn on school culture. So I will let you take it away.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's such an important moment to have the conversation with parents around school culture and bullying prevention. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so quick introduction of myself. I am a social worker and I've been working with DPS for about 9 years, and I've been working in and around school systems for almost 20 years. So this is my life's work. I believe in what we're trying to accomplish in our schools, which is a place where all learners thrive. And I'm specifically working on a grant right now through CDE. And the vision that I've kind of come up with or have imagined is that our schools are a place of belonging so that all of our students can bloom to the fullest and highest expressions of who they are. And so that's what this image here is. It's of a couple different people. There's an artist who paints images of flowers blooming out of the faces of different people. And that's really what I believe in and hope for in our schools, that everyone feels safe and a sense of deep belonging, that they can be seen and express themselves to the full expressions of who they are. So this is a picture from one of our schools, Lake Middle School. And I like to begin the conversation here because when we talk about bullying prevention, the bulk of the work really is on the prevention side of it, where we are creating the conditions and the culture where all students belong. And so this, what you see now, was on the side, it's on the side of the school, and it was covered in hate language. And the work that Lake has done, Amanda and Dino and the team over there, has created a culture that where the kids saw this hate language and wanted to do something about it. So they painted over with some beauty. And that's the hope, is that we all um, can see something and say something. And in this case, they created beauty out of something that was hateful. And so that's the big hope for the work. So today I'm going to go over, there'll be two sections. One is bullying, like definitions and some basics around that. Also discussing the different prevention practices that we do in DPS that you might hear about in your schools. And then section two, I'll be talking about healthy friendships, uh, upstanding, and healthy social media use. So in this first section, we'll be differentiating bullying, talk about the different types of bullying, reasons people bully, and then the prevention practices. So this is comes from the state. It's like state law, how we define bullying, and it's any written or verbal expression or physical or electronic act or gesture or pattern thereof that is intended to coerce, intimidate, or cause any physical, mental, or emotional harm to any student. And this matrix is used to differentiate bullying from other related behaviors. So one of the challenges we have is when a situation that doesn't necessarily meet the criteria for bullying is called bullying. And it just creates a little bit of confusion for the school, for parents, for students. And so having clarity on what bullying actually is versus like other behaviors really helps us uh, respond in a way that's meaningful. Because you respond differently with a bullying situation than you would in a conflict situation. So the first box is teasing, and this is where two folks can be having a good time or not. There's an asterisk there, and there's an equal balance of power between the two. So the key differences with teasing is where we stay conscious of when it's teasing to bond, or there's connection in the teasing, and then there's teasing that moves into like malicious teasing or like annoying teasing. And so when you're, thinking about conversations with your child and they're bringing up something to you, a situation, this might be one of the things to think about. Like, is this Are we teasing, or might it be bullying? Well, so the other good concept to keep in mind is conflict. So this is a situation where there's a disagreement between two parties. There's an equal balance of power, and with conflict, no one's like having a good time. So we're able to reach some sort of conclusion, and you can work with the parties together. Um, the next one is like a rude or hot moment. So this is an off day where you might say something rude or mean or nasty, but um, there's no it's an isolated incident, and there's an equal balance of power there as well. And so that that moves us into what bullying is. So someone's purposefully trying to harm someone else. It's repeated over time, and there's an imbalance of power. So the different types of bullying, physical, verbal, relational, and then cyber. So physical bullying is hitting, pushing, tripping, spitting, pulling hair. Verbal is mean-spirited teasing. So that goes to the malicious teasing where there's intention to harm or hurt someone with teasing. Name calling, insulting. Um, Relational bullying, which is also, referred to as like mean girl behavior. It's spreading rumors about someone, excluding someone from the group. And then cyberbullying is actually in the field of bullying considered a location. So it's the bullying behavior happening in a specific spot, which is any electronic means or online. So some of the reasons that people choose are engaging in bullying behavior is they want to assert dominance, um, wanting to control situations and people. They themselves might have lowest self-esteem. Something that we say is hurt people hurt others. Some people do it because they want recognition. They gain attention and status. Um, and for some others, it's learned behavior. So they are acting out what they've experienced um, in and around them. And so here are some of the prevention practices or approaches that you will hear about in schools. And I like to name these because parents who are showing up to events like these, I believe, have like a desire and want to know like what are our schools doing and potentially how I could be a part of that. So these are a few prevention practices that are commonly used in our schools across DPS. So social emotional learning, this is teaching skills to support a healthy relationship to self and others. This is like a big word. It's like a fancy word or like technical word, positive behavioral intervention support, or PBIS, which simply means we're getting clear on what we value and what we want to see, and then we reinforce or reward that. um, Restorative practices. So this is teaching skills to build trust, solve conflicts peacefully, and repair harm. And then trauma-informed practices, where we have the knowledge and skills to understand and respond to the impact of trauma that shows up in our schools. And then culturally responsive education, which is teaching or approaching teaching with a lens of considering cultural experiences, beliefs, and traditions in all aspects of the learning process. So before we get into section 2, is there what are people sitting with? What's kind of coming up? Any questions? Cool. Also, I guess just opening and inviting folks into this space. If something's coming up for you as I'm talking, feel free to get in the chat or to speak up. You can come off mute and we can hear your voice. All right, so section 2. So what the hope is with like bullying prevention work is, I guess ultimately that we're well and whole And therefore the likelihood of bullying is really reduced or diminished. And so these three sections are focused on having healthy relationships and having conversations with our kids about what healthy relationships are or what we can imagine them to be. And then the concept of upstanding, which is where we move from bystanding or seeing a situation into taking action to stop something that is wrong. And when we're looking at bullying situations, you are looking at someone being purposefully targeted. And in those situations, the target needs help. They don't have, the power or the skill to potentially advocate for themselves. So having others in the community notice what's happening and stand up for them is really helpful. So teaching the skill of upstanding is an important one. And then we'll have a discussion I'll share about healthy social media use. So these are the three strategies: promote healthy friendships, promote upstanding, promote healthy social media use. So healthy friendships, why this matters. Relationships are an essential part of who we are, and without them or when they're bad, our health suffers. So some things you can do with your student or with your kid is to discuss the qualities of a healthy friendship and also model the way in your own relationships. And in each of these strategies, modeling the way is really one of the most powerful things we can do as the adults and in your instance as parents. Like, am I consciously thinking about how I want my kid to have relationships? Am I modeling the relationships like that in my own life?
Wes, can I pause you
Yeah.
for a moment? Our
Yeah.
Vietnamese interpretation is here. So if you would like to listen to this presentation in Vietnamese, that channel is now open if you click on the translation globe to be able to get there.
Okay.
Thanks.
So healthy friendships. When I think about what's like at the core of the essence of what a good friend is, it's someone that I can be completely myself with. And as I'm in my own journey of like understanding myself, something that I've found really meaningful is that I can feel safe or I feel joy and ease with a friend. And so this is just a funny cartoon where you have a turtle talking to a dinosaur. I feel like I can be myself around you, as what the turtle's saying to the dinosaur, and the dinosaur says, "You're weird and quiet around me." And the turtle says, "Yes." So this kind of shows just the spirit of what a good friend might be like. So here are some questions, or even maybe things to look out for with your student around friendships. So, what qualities do you look for in a friend? So, these are also great questions for ourselves too. So, when we're real clear on some of these things, and we kind of start taking action in alignment with what we want, the world will change around us. So, what qualities do you look for in a friend? What do you enjoy most about your friends? How do you know someone is a good friend? And then how do you solve conflicts with a friend? That takes some skill. And how do you know when someone is not being a good friend? Another question might be, would you be friends with a bully? Or when I think of like the qualities of a friend, I can't think of anyone that says I want to be friends with a bully. But sometimes we find ourselves in situations where you are friends with someone and then they start acting like that. And so that's where navigating conflict would come in. So having some strategies or approaches for that, which would be a whole segment or a whole nother like class or course on that. So a way to approach this is to think, even for yourself, what are some of these? How would you answer some of these? And so you can have the conversation with your child, or you can also think about or like notice what it is. Like, what qualities are you noticing about your students? So note our kiddo. Like, what are they interested in? Who are their friends? What is it about their friends that they like? So noticing when and where your child is like lit up and feels good about themselves. Um, so I had a parent come to me one day and asked me about, his kid was being bullied, and this was in another school district. And I said, well, ideally, here's what is happening in the school. But when it's not happening, the greatest thing that we can do as parents is make sure that our homes are a place of safety and ease and joy and support. We can't really ever control what's going on outside, but we can create the home to be a really safe, nurturing place. And that's going to be your greatest, protective factor around what's going on the outside. Um, yeah, it just kind of came up. Upstanding. So this is the idea that when you see something, you're saying something, which can be quite challenging at times. But it's one of the ways that we can stop bullying and frankly, a lot of, um, I guess, awful behavior, which is a brave thing to do. So it's seeing something and saying something. So what you can do is discuss the importance of standing up, discuss how you might do this, and then again, also modeling the way. And so here's a quote to reflect on this idea, or kind of speaks to it. So the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. So here is a tool that we use to um, explain like a bullying situation. So you have the student who is bullied in the center, so the H, and then around are the people who are also participants in one way or another. So bullying is, by its nature, a social situation. There are usually people who can see what else is going on. So you have the students who bully, so they are like the lead students who are initiating. You have folks who are following the bully, so they are actively also um, participating in the bullying behavior themselves. You have folks who are supporters or passive bullies, so they might openly share or make fun of and tease behind closed doors, but they may not be publicly targeting or bullying. But in private, they're like, yeah, uh, you know, having mean-spirited comments and are in alignment with like the bullies like thinking. And then you have passive supporters. So these folks like the bullying, but do not show any outward signs of support, but like internally they might. So then you have disengaged onlookers. So these are people who are kind of disassociating. I'm not participating, um, and they don't get involved, nor do they stand up. And then you have folks who are on the edge or know that the bullying behavior isn't okay. They don't agree with it, but they're not doing anything. And then you have defenders or upstanders. So people who do not like the bullying behavior and actively say something in it or for it or against it. So this is just a helpful tool to think about, where do I stand in certain situations when I'm seeing something? Where in this circle might I be participating? Or so we're all participating, but at which level are we participating in? And doing this work, it's a challenge for me too, to stand up. It's a bit jarring. Or if you have people in positions of power and they're doing something you don't like standing up is brave. It's difficult. It takes a lot of resolve and integrity in your own heart and spirit. Um, and so it's something I still work on myself. So this is a show called What Would You Do? If you want to have a discussion or just something to watch, it is a series that has on ABC. You can look it up online and watch the episodes, but they have different scenarios, from bullying to harassment, racism, homophobia. There's hazing, um, and all kinds of situations that they are staging and recording to see how other people will react. Some people, it's a good show to get you thinking about, okay, what would I feel and think in this situation, and how might I react? And you're seeing other people, reacting, and some do like a really great job of standing up, and some people are, some of the other onlookers, disengaged or passive. And so this is just another tool for how you might have the conversation with your kiddos. And so here are some conversation starters. Have you ever stood up to someone who wasn't doing something right? How would you stand up to someone who's bullying others? What can you do if someone is bullying others? All right, and this brings us to our last topic, which is encouraging healthy social media use. And so social media is in itself a neutral tool. It gives us what we put into it as a species, collectively speaking. Um, and so the hope or the idea here is that we take control of our social media in a way that serves us. Um, I know for myself, so what you can do is discuss what you want to experience. So thinking about what is it that I want to feel and see and look at when I'm using social media. So some things for me are like beauty, laughter, um, inspiration. Um, so thinking about what it is that you want to experience and get clear on it, take time to clean your feed out so that it can reflect that. There's also setting limits on use. I have a timer for my social media time. And then, of course, again, as a parent, model the way. So how is your relationship to social media? Is there a clear vision for what it is that you want to be experiencing with it, so that you can also model that with your kids? So this is an image from Moana. And for those of you who haven't seen the movie, this is Tekka, which is like the wild monster, that is like lava, hot, destructive. And I think of this as social media at times, that can be such a source of harm and hurt for all of us. And so in the movie, Moana just comes straight up to it. She's got the heart of Defeaty. And this is sort of where I think we could really shift the landscape of social media if we introduce the heart, if we get clear on what it is that we want to see and hope for in our social media experience, we can transform it. And this is kind of returning the heart to a place that can be really nasty at times. And so I really think about what's in my locus of control that I can return the heart to and give and feed to social media. How am I participating in a way that is serving me, serving my values, that's uplifting? Um, and then, if we all kind of took time to do that, I think the landscape of social media would really change. Um, yeah. Okay. So conversation starters to have with, oh, was somebody speaking up? So some conversation starters are like, what do you experience using social media? So this is just kind of getting like a understanding of what the experience you're having with social media is like. So taking some inventory, kind of waking up to like, oh, do I feel good or do I feel bad after engaging with social media. So kind of doing an inventory and assessment of what your experience is like. Then moving into like, what would you like to experience when you're using it? What are ways to make sure social media is a good experience for you? So this is like setting limits. This is like cleaning up your feed. Um, is social media usage impeding like your life in any way? So is it interfering where I'm not like participating in things that I enjoy, but I'm like glued to the screen? And then how can you use social media as a force for good? Are a few questions. And that that will do it for the presentation. These are a few resources. So talking about having healthy friendships, childmind.org, the What Would You Do website, and then Common Sense Media is a really useful tool for parents. It's got all kinds of media. Here, I can actually show it to you guys. So they've got like ratings on different movies that they've gone through. There's a whole section for parents. Yeah. So different tips for having conversations about social media, building character. Really helpful tool if you're like, man, social media is something that's really tough for me and my child right now. There's a lot of information on that. So that's what I focused on for the presentation. There's a lot of different ways to go when you're thinking about culture and bullying prevention, but that's what I chose the focus to be, welcoming feedback and opening up the space for questions and what might be alive or something you're sitting with that you'd want to share with the group.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah,
Okay. What is the normal procedure when you've told the principal that your kid is being bullied?
yeah,
And we've asked for this happened last year, but he's in middle school, so I don't want it to happen again.
yeah.
I even asked for like a meeting with the other parents, and they said no, DPS doesn't do meetings parents to parents. Um,
Hmm.
but I was like, I just want it to stop. I want this kid to do this, and I don't want to be the type of person that would be like I would go pick him up so the kid could see me standing there, like I'm watching you, but I didn't want to be the
Yeah.
bully either. But I was like, this just needs to stop. And when I asked for the meeting one-on-one, they were like, no, it's not gonna it won't they don't do meetings, you know.
Yeah. Well, um, I'm glad that you brought this up, and I think actually instinctually, if there's a willingness from the other parents to have the conversation, I would advocate for that. So if I was a social worker in the school, I would say yes. I mean, I would first meet with both parents to understand the situation. Um, so like procedure is like to investigate, you follow like a process to, speak with both parents. But if something's not being done, I mean, I'm always willing to pick up the phone and make a phone call. I can't make other people do anything, but I certainly would step in to help with any situations that I could.
Mhm.
Um, I think having a meeting with the parents is a great idea if you think about and I've facilitated those meetings as well. But how it works is I would meet with both parents to understand we can get to a resolution before we would come together. Um,
Mhm.
and so if it's not stopping, I mean, if it's a real serious, I mean, because there's serious stuff going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it doesn't sound like the situation was maybe met this threshold, but if you need to pull in law enforcement,
That's what they did. They did say, if we need to, you have the right to go to the law enforcement and report the kid that you want to like not have him bother him, because they even moved him to one side or the other of the room, and they knew he constantly was being picked on. He
Yeah.
constantly would, you know, and my kid would come home and he wouldn't want to go to school the next day, saying, "You're
Mhm.
just sending me home to be bullied." But then nothing was done. Like, I want the meeting with the parent, and they said no, DPS doesn't do that. And so it eventually backed off when I started, like, I'm to the point where I'm gonna just go to the kid and say, "Hey, can you please just stop bothering my son?" You know, like, but I was just showing presence
Yeah.
doing that. And maybe that kind of like, maybe that, and we knew the kid had what was having issues at home. So again, like you say, they're doing what they're seeing, right? They're doing it
Yeah.
to another kid. And I always told my son, you don't fight unless you have to defend yourself, but you don't hit, you know, you're
Yeah.
not going to do that. But yeah, it just got to that point, and so now he's in middle school, and he was able to open up, and I'm like, as soon as you start hearing that process again, because I had to move him even from another school for
Yeah.
years, that he would never open up to say this is what was happening to me,
Right.
you know, because kids could be kids. Like, some days they're going to be nice, some days they're not, and then some days they're going to be the same kid is going to say this is where the bully is. Like, he's your friend one time, and then he's not your friend, and then he's your friend, and then makes you pretend that he's your friend, and then he goes around doing the bullying, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, I kind of had to make a stop to it. And so now, being in middle school, he now knows if something's happening, tell me, because it hurt him self-esteem, and he has
Yeah.
a sensitivity.
Yeah.
So, and new to the school, they say they don't somebody recommended it because they don't do they don't, like, they're tougher, you know, in middle school because it could get out of hand. But in this situation, I just dealt with that concern. Like, they just told me right off the bat, no, DPS does not do parent to parent meetings.
I would also mention too, just as an additional resource, we do have the DPS Family Constituency Services Hotline. They
Mm-hmm.
will advocate for you. They will go into the school and help you mediate, and they can connect you to resources like Wes, to be able to have some people backing you up when you have difficult situations and you're not being heard as a family.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also mention Barney Ford. I know I worked with a parent that was dealing with some bullying. She was
Mm-hmm.
able to rally around the PTA and start an anti-bullying campaign at that school where families would volunteer to patrol the hallway and notice kindness. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking about maybe instead of partnering with the parent for the conflict, how can you like build a community of parents that are anti-bullying to back you up too?
Mm-hmm. And I even, like, I knew about the safe to tell, and I was like, you
Yeah.
could even, like, thank you for putting that, they put DPS family thing on
Yeah.
there. So, but yeah, I even went to like a safe to tell seminar thing that they had, because, you know, they talk about all this
Yeah.
stuff. And so I'm like, if you need to report it and all this, so I could learn more. And I said, and they knew, like, there was record of things like that. And so it just hurt his self-esteem. It hurts him as a person. And so I just make sure, like, it doesn't happen again. And good thinking that he was able to open up now in the middle school. And as soon as something happened, I'm like, you got to go tell somebody. And the problem was that he thought that they were not going to believe him. The teachers were not going to believe him,
Yeah.
because it happened where the teachers, like, oh no, you're a troublemaker, kind of make it seem like he was the troublemaker when it wasn't.
Yeah.
So
And it's
yeah,
scary and it's risky.
yeah.
So
And they
Adriana,
don't.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but your story brings up another question. Do you mind if I interject?
Go ahead.
So you had mentioned that you were there and present when you picked your child up from school so that the bully would see you there. That seems like a very reasonable, sorry, I should put video on. That seems like a very reasonable option to me. Does that help support my kiddo or disempower them by being like, oh, it's okay, my mom's got it? Like, what do you guys recommend as far as something like that? Is being a parent just being there, being present, and a hope that that will deter the behavior? Is that better for your child or worse for your child, or any recommendations along those lines?
Yeah. So I think there's maybe a bit of both and here. So sometimes there's a bit of self-advocacy that might come into a discussion or at play for a student so that that can be developed. But if it's really intense and there does need to be a pause, whatever adult is there to stop it, I would say, yeah, it gives maybe a little bit of space for the student, and the student also has someone that feels safe. And so I think there's a little bit of a both and maybe what you're getting at, like at building some self-advocacy skills would be, also a good route to take. And also like when we're thinking about our kids, like noticing like who and where like they do have good friends, so supporting that. But yeah, if the behavior to get it to stop, or for there to be like a pause and for the kid to also feel like there's some safety, I think that is great. So maybe like a both and is what's coming up for me. Like I want, it's good to have. Yeah, in the ideal world, our parents are the caregivers that can protect us. Like that's sort of one of the functions that we hope parents, can have. And so, and then at the same time, it is, helping our kids, uh, with having a healthy self-esteem, um, and then also having like healthy friendships that they can go to. Um, Middle school for me was terrifying. And if my dad was present enough to stick up for me a little bit, I think that would have been powerful and meaningful, to know that my dad could help me if I needed it. Um, that's what's coming up for me.
Okay, that's really helpful. I think maybe I can just tell my kiddo, all right, so I'm gonna let you handle this because here's the tools and I know how you can do it, but I'm gonna stand over here by the car so that if you need me, you can signal to me and I'll come in. But let's work on your techniques first, and then if you need me, I'm here. So then they could maybe he can be supported, but and also empowered. I don't know. I agree.
Yeah,
Middle school's like the meanest people are in their whole entire life. They're just
yeah. It's such a wild time.
so tough.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean that's a really interesting idea. And so yeah, thinking about how to prep your kid for like advocating for themselves. I mean, I've been out in the street not too long ago, and was called a slur. Um, yeah, I guess part of it is building up our own capacity to move on from it, which school is such a hard setting because we're in class with those people again, and it's because at times terrifying. And we just have more work to do also just as a school system to really get rid of this problem. Um, and so Aaron, in your cases, have you talked to, or I guess I'm just thinking about like the school community. Is there any support you have with them?
Oh, my child is not having a problem with bullying. He's in kindergarten. That's still the nice phase of life.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to attend these classes to become prepared because I know these things will come up at some point, and I'm
yeah,
trying to kind of think what I would do. But my kiddo's not being bullied yet, and hopefully won't be ever. But that way we can open the conversation early, get him prepared, get coping skills before they're reactionary, still be proactive on the take. So I really don't know anything about being a parent, the nightmare it must be to be a parent of a bullied child. But yeah, Adriana, I don't have that same problem, hon. I'm so sorry, but
yeah,
yeah, I'm just here to learn for the future.
And yeah, I know it's learning because, like you mentioned, middle school is the toughest, And so I did hear from like a family member that stood up to the kid, and the parent went and send him to court basically. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stand up to the kid. But it got to the point like my son was able to point me, that's the parent over there in case I need to. So every day I would go pick him up and I'll be like, how did it go? Did he say anything? Because I'm this close to just going and talking to the parent as well. But just the presence of like, but when my cousin told me, I mean, family member told me that like, don't go to the kid, but I was this close. And I even told it in the email with the principal, I'm this close. And then just my presence of being there
Yeah.
kind of goofed it off. So,
Yeah.
but this time around is like, there was a sense of little bit of bullying in when he started school, middle school. And I was like, you got to tell somebody right away, because he kept it in. He would just, that's the thing
Yeah.
is he thought in elementary, I did not protect him. I did not like stood up for him. And I'm like, I didn't know this was happening. I would see you playing with this kid.
Yeah.
And it was like the kid from the PTA mom, the one that was always involved. So they always believed that kid, you know, and it's like, it was a tough situation, but I made it clear, like, I'm here for you. As soon as you tell me something, I'm going to jump on it.
Yeah.
And it helped to know that I had his back.
Yeah.
It's
I
just, it
love
was
that,
very tough.
Adriana. Thank
And
you
yeah,
for sharing. I want to
Mm-hmm.
elevate that we have another question too in the chat. This question is, what protocol do DPS schools follow to prevent bullying if it's brought up, or is it specific to the school?
so protocol for preventing or protocol for responding. So there's with prevention, those other practices that I had talked about, you should hear some sort of mention of these in the school, and this is where so that's like prevention protocol. So thinking about social emotional learning, trauma-informed care, restorative practices on the prevention side.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I
culture
think her
responsive.
question is actually specific to responding, just so you know. She
Oh yeah.
corrected
So then
yeah.
with responding, there's an investigation protocol. So gathering the evidence, the information, and then there is moving into if it's identified as bullying, having a discipline and a mental health response depending on each case. So mental health supports would be understanding the impact, if any, on the student who's targeted. There's also a mental health protocol for the bully to change behavior. So ideally, we're able to change the behavior when they're kids while they're young, but also making sure that the student who's being targeted is safe um, and supported. That's kind of the basic protocol. Does that answer your question?
If
So
she
it's
chats, we'll let you
investigation.
know.
Yeah, it's investigation, determination, and then you follow um, by with mental health supports and disciplinary process.
I also have a question. And yes, you did answer a question with an exclamation point. Thank you, Gina. So when I think about this, I also think about like how much kids are like bullied in silence
Yeah.
and how that can like lead to like cases of suicide that we hear about on the news, right? So I guess I'm curious like how a parent might be able to recognize signs if their child isn't telling them they're being bullied.
Yeah. Here, I'll pull up. This is another website that I'll add to the um, actually I have this one pager. Let me go to it really fast. Sorry guys. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, so some of these would be unexplained physical injuries, frequent headaches or stomach aches. So this would be like somatic symptoms, feeling sick, but there's no uh, physical cause. Not wanting to go to school, changes in eating habit or sleep patterns, a drop in grades, lost or damaged clothing, student loss of friends or avoidance of social situations, unexplained changes in mood, which sometimes that is like teenage years. But you'd want to look for like a cluster of these. You'd want to look for like a cluster of these. So noticing any like mood changes, not wanting to go to school, anxiety around school, somatic symptoms. So this is the headache, the tummy aches. Um, yeah, does that?
Yeah, and I would say ask to follow up. If a parent is noticing a cluster of these symptoms, what would be their next step? Talk to the child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I, like parenting is such a dance. And one of the concepts that we think about as mental health practitioners is attunement. And attunement is the idea of kind of listening between the lines a little. So so what would you do? So like kind of like the like a tuning, and then checking in. And I just think about students that I've worked with too, where like, asking them directly isn't always going to get the conversation going. So sometimes it's saying, I'm noticing that you're not wanting to go to school. Um, and I'm curious about what's going on. Um, each child, each person is so nuanced. You're kind of playing with a couple different things. So listening for what their experience is, and then trying to kind of like get information. And you can do that through questions and also kind of observation.
Love that. We have time for one more question. If anybody else has something on their mind, you can drop it in the chat. You
I
can
could
come
put
mute.
this in the thing as well. Yeah, and if you have a specific situation going on in your school, reach out to me. I will call the school or, see what it is. Um, oh, did it go?
Oh, sorry. Were you sharing something? I thought you were closing out.
Oh yeah. I was just writing
Introductory.
my information and we could share this deck,
I
I
think
guess.
I have, yes, I shared
Yeah.
the deck in the chat. And I was gonna hop back to our
Yeah.
original deck to kind of close this out, which you
Yeah.
should have your contact information at the end. So
Okay.
I will add it in here. You just wanna your email address.
Yeah, you put my email
Okay,
address there. Yeah.
great. I will get there, but first. I love getting your feedback, you guys. Let's let Wes know your thoughts about the presentation. So I'm going to do 1 60-second silent for you to be able to fill this out. Going to share it now. Just 5 quick questions for you. Then we'll do our giveaway. I'll let you know what's upcoming. Face University and Thanks Parent, and then we will share our contact information and hang back if you have any quick questions to close. We'll stop the live stream now, so everything will be private. Recording can be stopped too, Mark. I'll give you
No,
about 20 more seconds to fill out the feedback survey, and then we'll move forward.
yeah,
All
I'll add
right.
some more
So
links.
that feedback survey will stay up, but I'm going to move into giving away our tickets with our wheel of names. So I have Erin, Laura, Brenna, Adriana Elvira, and Adriana Trevino, which is fun. Roxanne, Gina, Tho, Duong, and I apologize if I say anybody's names wrong. I have Huang, I have Marcy. If there's somebody here that needs to be part of the raffle, speak now so we can add you to the wheel. Okay, so I'm going to assume we have everyone and give it a spin. All right, our first winner is Adriana Trevino. Congratulations.
Oh,
All right, and I'm going to remove you from the list. We're going to do 2 more giveaways tonight. You should have left your email when you registered, so that's how I will reach out to you. If you left your phone number, I will text you as well. We have one. Congratulations. Woohoo. All right, and one more. Spin here. And we have Gina. Yeah. Thank you guys all so much for coming tonight. I
yeah,
really
thank you.
appreciate you. We are going to close out with some upcoming things. You guys are all parent champions and rock stars for just showing up today and doing that for your child and for yourself. Upcoming at Face University, we just wrapped up bullying. We're going to move into raising media smart kids. So that's really going to focus on the social media safety aspect that Wes kind of started us into. We will go over a lot of the different apps and we'll be back on that Common Sense website with a lot more other resources. Brian Dino does these presentations at schools throughout Denver. He's been doing it for a long time, so it's really great information. Make sure you join us and register for that. Upcoming at Face University, it's going out in the newsletter this week. We are moving into Common Kind Family, which I think really aligns with this bullying prevention. It aligns a lot with social media safety and just making sure that you are practicing self-care to care for your child is what we'll cover day 1. Day 2, we start to go into looking at a lens of compassion and how Wes had mentioned attunement. It's a lot of what that is really making sure you're fully hearing and being fully present and aware of what your child's what's going on for your child, not just physically, but emotionally and socially as well. Then we'll go into managing emotions. How are we providing a safe space for our child to feel their emotions, experience them, and understand them, not just move towards the comfortable ones? Can they get comfortable feeling uncomfortable? And how you can just provide a calmer and more effective and safe space for your whole family. That's going to launch the first week of November. It's 4 one-hour sessions. So you will be able to register if you're hooked up to my newsletter. If not, make sure you reach out to me. Lastly, Denver School Thrives United in Excellence sessions are happening. If you want to learn about this initiative and how DPS is addressing declining enrollment, these are the opportunities that you have to come ask your questions and get a little bit more information on how that's impacting schools or potentially your school. But we really do not have any clue what schools yet. We are looking just for feedback from the community at this time. Other events, we have 2 Voss survey opening November 1st. It's about a 5 to 10 minute survey where you can let DPS know what you think they're doing well, how the school year is going so far for you, and what your hopes are moving forward with DPS. We have an upstanding family community opportunity that it looks like the picture didn't make it here. So that's another thing you'll be able to find in my newsletter. Wes, do you want to speak towards that? So I make sure I explain it right.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
Upstanding family community opportunity. It was an
Okay.
upstander thing.
Oh, with the
Remember?
event from
Yeah.
the orthodontics. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yes. Okay. So a 5280 orthodontics actually is offering Invisalign to a nominated student. So you can write in, let me pull that up. I'm sorry.
No, you don't need it right now. I will put in my newsletter
Okay.
all the families that registered for this event. I have your email, so you will be receiving my newsletter this week. If for whatever
Yes.
reason you don't get it, feel free to reach out to me.
Sorry, yep. So it's if you can nominate a student who is demonstrating upstanding behavior, is exceptionally kind, and they can be nominated for a free Invisalign through this 5280 partner orthodontics.
Cool.
So I'll send that over. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And then just stay in touch. We're on the Face University website, dpsk12.org/face-university. We have our YouTube channel. We record this session. It'll be provided with English, Spanish, and Vietnamese subtitling. and usually about a week. So you'll be able to check it out again if you missed anything in a week. And if you have any questions, if you need clarification, I'm going to go ahead and drop, oop, I scanned the wrong thing. I'm going to pop Wes's email in here as well so that you can have it. And yeah, if you have any closing questions, feel free to let us know. And thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks. We appreciate you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Erin. You have a good night.
You too. Bye.
All right. I think we're good. That's everybody.
Mhm.
Stop me share.
Awesome.
I'm going to.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm gonna